Hi there, psychopath. The definition of the word psychopath is somebody who likes to take advantage of other people around them for their own short-term gain and their own short-term gratification. So psychopath or psychopathy, some examples of this would be if you were in class and somebody didn't have the right stuff. So maybe they pretended to be friends with you to take advantage of you just for some equipment. Maybe they didn't bring a book into class, or maybe they didn't bring their pen. This might be a minute example of psychopathy. They might pretend to be all cool with you and friends with you just so they can take advantage of you, take your pens and maybe take some paper out of your book, or maybe even take one of your books, and then they'll just take it and they will never give it back to you and they'll probably never talk to you again. That's some example of psychopathy. Another example is if there's a rich man and a woman wants to get close to him just for the money, not because she's attracted to him, not because she thinks he's competent or like any genuine attraction there, not because the wealth is an indicator of his competence. Just because he's rich, she wants to talk to him just because he has money. That's it. Not attracted to him at all. She's attracted to the money. There's an example of psychopathy. She gets close to him. She maybe marries him. Then she divorces him because she wants the money. And so she gets half of his money because now they've divorced and he has to give half of his money to her because they got married. And now they get divorced and she just wanted to take money from him. There's an example of psychopathy. That's the definition of psychopathy. It's taking advantage of other people for your own short-term gain. And this is a very negative thing, obviously, because it means that psychopaths can't create a real relationship with anybody around them because they're taking advantage of other people all the time around them. So nobody actually likes them, but they move around a lot. So they may be in one town and they may take advantage of a bunch of people in that certain town, and then they'll move to a different area, a different town, and they'll take advantage of a bunch of people in that town. And so nobody knows they're a psychopath wherever they go, but they just take advantage of a bunch of different people. Yeah. Usually disagreeable people, especially men, are very good at detecting this as a threat. They can detect like, oh yeah, he's probably a psychopath, he's probably trying to take advantage of you, and it's probably like an evolutionary, usually competent men, like good men who are more disagreeable because women are more agreeable and they're also more like maternal and they like to infantilize people, women do, so less on the women part. Women aren't great at detecting this compared to men. Men are good at detecting this because they're more disagreeable, so they can detect psychopaths and as a threat and be like, oh, he's probably a psychopath, he's trying to take advantage of you, don't talk to him, you know? I looked for a book definition. There is no book definition, and the definition on Google is not a very good definition. It's mental illness or disorder for psychopathy. It says define psychopathy, mental illness or disorder. There's no real good definition for the word psychopathy on here. So I'm using the clinical psychologist definition, which I stated at the start of this video. Yeah. Another example of psychopathy could be seen in sex. If a man wants to have sex with a woman just for his own hedonistic, just for his own pleasure, just for his own short-term pleasure, if a man wants to have sex with a woman like that, he's partially training some subconscious psychopathic trait in him. You're a bit of a psychopath if you want to go around and sleep with a bunch of women just for your own pleasure. You want a spasm of pleasure, so you're going around and sleeping with as many women as possible, using them just for your own pleasure. You know, these women might want to develop relationships with you. Maybe they don't. But if they don't, then it's just hedonistic. And the problem with like hedonistic sex is it's not intimate and it's meaningless, and there's also a huge risk. You know, the woman could get pregnant, or she has to take fucking drugs, which mess with her menstrual cycle, which therefore mess with her brain and her and her hormones, her hormone levels, messes with her brain and her preferences and all sorts of things. It does. It's subjective. You can learn about this. So there's some examples of psychopaths. Bad people, mental illness or disorder. You know, anybody could be a psychopath if they trained to be. If they were around enough people who allowed them to be psychopaths, they could develop traits of being psychopathic. Anybody could. But yeah, it's just self-control and delaying gratification. Immaturity and hedonism is what... Immaturity and hedonism, which the definition of immaturity, or the definition of being mature, is delaying gratification. So the definition of immaturity is not being able to delay gratification and wanting instant gratification, which is what hedonism is. That's what hedonism means as well. And so hedonism and immaturity, that's what pushes in the direction of psychopathy, of being a psychopath, which is quite interesting. But yeah, so as long as you're mature, as long as you're not around hedonistic people, which is a bad thing, because hedonism does not like competence, because you can't really be competent if you are hedonistic. Not really. So yeah, which also means that nothing gets done. If you're hedonistic, if everybody were hedonistic, nothing would get done, everybody would be incompetent, which means everything would devolve into like caveman times pretty much, because nothing would get done. You know, TikTok is hedonistic and lots of different things are like that. You know, instant sex is hedonistic, and people taking advantage of people for their own short-term gain is hedonistic and psychopathic. Let's think of another example. If you have any examples that you'd like to give me or anybody else and you'd like to teach people, put it in the comment section. Leave a comment on whatever platform you're watching this on. Even if, you know, this is a Creative Commons video, which means anybody can take it and post it wherever they want. So wherever you're seeing this, leave a comment and give an example of when you've seen psychopathy or psychopaths. Let's think of another example, one last example of psychopathy. Maybe a last example could be maybe you want attention, and so maybe you take a picture with somebody famous, or you talk to somebody who's popular because they have a lot of popularity. Maybe they're kind people, and so people like this person, and so maybe you're a bit of a parasite, a bit of a leech, a bit of a psychopath, and you go in and you take advantage of this popular person, and you get all buddy and close to them just for their attention, and maybe you take advantage of that attention and use it in a negative way, and then you use that and you take advantage of them just for their attention that they have, and then you leave and you're not friends with them anymore, because obviously that's what psychopaths do. They're not friends with people. They just take advantage of people in the short term, not in the long term. In the short term, they take advantage of people and they move on to a different set of people. That's what psychopaths do, and that's the definition of psychopath.